Hello pilots and ground crew, welcome back to my channel. Well, I've been doing some work on my helicopters and hoping to have them all up and running over winter to get some flights in spring summertime. But I thought I'd take this opportunity because I thought there'll be a few people just getting into helicopters. So I thought I'd make a quick video on how to assemble the head, right, where the main blade's connecting to, because it can be a bit daunting because you've got all these little bearings and stuff and it's a case of where does everything bloody go. So I thought while I'm at it, I thought I'll knock this quick how-to video out for new people getting into helicopters. So head assembly, roll VT. Okay then, right, this is the main head which will fit on top of the main shaft, and your propellers go across the top. But as I said, if you're building helis and stuff, you'll already know this, but I'm explaining it a little bit easier, right, for the newer pilot who's just getting into helis and just not sure about assembling a head. If the boat are ready to fly, they've smashed it and they need to put a replacement on. So these are the parts just for the head. So we've got the head basically, plenty of little nuts and bolts here and stuff. These are your blade grips where your blade will go in, put a nut and bolt in, tighten them down to hold your blades in place, right? And you've got your main parts which go through the head here. This little bar is called a feathering shaft. This will fit through there, everything screws onto it, connects up, and you're off. But there's a little bit more to it than that, as you'll see in a moment. These are your thrust bearings, right, which gives the stability in the rotation of the blades. Now, with the thrust bearings, I'll just mention this straight away, right, we'll take the feathering shaft. You'll have two. If I zoom right in here, it might help. Right, you've got two, is that in shot there? One there, one there. You've got two particular like little washers with inlays in, right? Now if you're lucky, one will say out and one will say in, right? Now think of the centre of the feathering shaft as like the centre, right? And the one that says in means closest in to the centre, and the one that says out closest out to the centre. Now if your little washers, right, well they're not exactly washers, they're to hold the bearing, this little bearing here, to hold that in place. Now if they haven't got the words in and out on them, you can test them by picking one up and popping it on the end. If it's really loose and wobbly like that, that's the in. Okay, so you know that one's going in. And on the outside one, it will be stiff. If I pop it on the end, there's no play on that at all, so you know that's the one for out. But luckily this actually says in and out on them. But yeah, and that's how you can remember anyway. Okay, let's get this thing assembled then. Let me just zoom back out a little bit. I don't want to zoom out too far because I don't want it all to vanish. I'm just going to move these out the road for a moment and take these two, I nearly said washers then, washers. These two bearings, because on your head part here it comes with a bearing inside, but there's also one that needs to go into the centre, right, which are these. Now before you even start, put a blob, right, have I got a little bag or something here or a tub to catch it? Oh, not prepared. There you go, put them in there. You want a little blob of oil on them, right, just to get them oiled up, right, and also, right, a little blob of oil on there. You don't need to go mental with that, but just enough to let it speak through itself. Make sure the bearings are spinning alright. Okay, they'll sit over there and sort themselves out. These, I'll get my hands greasy, just give them a little twist around, make sure both sides get oily, put them down. Do the same with that one, put it down. Keep that little tub for later. Right, wipe your hands. Oh man, got some bloody rubber gloves here, should have put them on. I will do when I do the grease. Right, Now we'll start with this part here, right, your main head part. You will get two little rubbers with it, right. These are called dampeners, right, and they're to basically hold the feathering shaft in place and to dampen the vibration, hence dampeners. Now if you look at them, one end will be slightly rounded. It's hard to tell on these little ones. On a 500 size everything's huge, right, so you can see it a lot easier, but one end will be slightly rounded and one end will be flat. You want the slightly rounded end facing out, and you literally just pop them in like that. Okay, and same with the other one, which is the rounded end. That side, I think. Let me double check that. It's hard to tell because they're so tiny, these. Oh, sorry about that. This one's very hard to tell. That way. And you just pop them in the head. Right, we'll come back to that. Out of all these little well, thrust bearings and little washers and things like that, right, these two little silver ones, you can put them to one side for a minute, right, because they're going to be, shall we say, in the centre of the bar, not inside the holder. I'm trying to keep this as simple as I can. Right, in fact, now these bearings are done, I'll get them inside the holder. Now I have got, as it reaches, I've got a little gizmo I made up for this job. Right, pop the bearing on the gizmo and just slide it in until it lines up and then pull off and let it drop, and it's in there. Do the same with the other one. Slide it in. Sort of push it down so it's nice and flush, and it's in there. Right, I'm just going to wash my hands, so I'll be back in a second. And we're back. Right, so we've done put the bearings in here, so I'll just move them out the road to the side a minute. Right, now the actual thrust bearings, we'll move these two little copper spacers up a little bit, right, just so they don't get mixed up, because all these, right, all this is part of your thrust bearing and they go on the inside of this, and them two little washers there go on that side, the outside. Okay, right, but just move that to one side for a moment. Right, your bearings, your actual thrust bearings part, right, you need to put grease on them, which I won't tell you why, because it's bleeding obvious. It's a bit tricky with some of this small. You're going to get grease on your hands. There's nothing you can do about it. Alright. In that groove I showed you, there's all different ways of doing this, but you want it in that groove. I've really got the glove on the wrong bloody hand here. I'll tell you what. That's better. Just get a bit more grease. Right, popping it, rubbing it round in the little groove. There's a little groove, you'll see it. If you can't see it on camera, when you pick them up, the thrust bearings, you'll see them. And now on the bearing side, now if you look at this bearing, it's sort of like, it's flat on one side and then the actual bearings stick out on the other side, and it's the other side where the bearings are sticking out where you want the grease. And don't be afraid to put plenty on, right? You want plenty of grease in here, right, because it's bearings and you don't want them to start grinding up and stuff, right, because if that happens you'll be sorry. If you get grease on the other side, which I just did, which is obvious because it's all over my bloody gloves, don't worry about it, it's not going to cause any problems whatsoever. The worst thing that'll happen is when the rotor head's spinning, right, a bit of the grease might just come out the side and you just wipe it off. It'll only do it the once and then you're off and ready. Right, now I'm just going to stop at that point because we can assemble half the head now. Right, the first half is always the easiest one, right, which you'll see why in a moment. I'll just back out a little bit so you can see what's going on a bit easier. Yeah, the first half is always the easiest one, the first one. You will also need a little bit, if I can get it, a little bit of blue Loctite. Don't use the red. Right, you just need a dot. Right, I always put it on a little bit of plastic or some bit of paper. You only need a dot of the stuff. Right, I'll tell you why in a moment. Right, now let's assemble the first part of the first blade grip. So, what you'll need, how can I explain this simply? There's no way to explain it simply, I'll just show you. Alright, I'll just go along with it and just do it. Trying to talk it and explain it will just confuse you more. Alright, take one of them copper washers. You could put this on after you've done this bit, right, but it's better safe than sorry, because this, right, it will fall straight off again, right, but if you just keep it in your hand, then you know it's on then, right, so you won't forget in the end, right, but if it does slide off, just remember to put it on afterwards, right, which I'll do in a minute actually. Right, take your little thrust bearing which was labelled in, which is the looser one, and pop it on your feathering shaft. Now if you get any grease, which I'm going to take that off again now, you don't want any grease in the edges of your feathering shaft, because that's where the screw's going to go. Alright, and you're going to be Loctite in it, so you don't want any grease in there. Alright, so be careful at this point. Alright, I'll just get the first one on. Now the bearing. Now if I can pick the bloody thing up. You want the ball bearings, the open end, you can see that the open end pointing in towards the middle, and the more solid end pointing out, and that way it catches any grease that happens to come out. And then the last bit is your other part of the thrust bearing, right, which is your tighter one, and I've got a bit of grease on there again, which is your tighter one, which goes on there. Okay, so we've got to this point. It's easier if you've got something to help stand it up like that, alright, but however you want to do it. Now you need to get your screw in, which is where you'll need, oh, I don't like that screw. In fact, that screw is bloody horrible. I'm going to put a new one in. Where's my new screws? What did I do with my new screws? Oh, that's alright. It's just a bit dirty. I thought I was going to have a problem with that then, but no. You do get all the hardware with your headset, right, when you're buying your full set. It's just that I bought this in dribs and drabs because I've got 1,000,001 spare bits. Right, put my screwdriver on. Now this is where you want your Loctite, and I use a toothpick just to spread some Loctite on the edge of the screw. Alright, you don't have to go mental. You want plenty on, but you don't want to go mental. I'm just rubbing the excess off here. Right, it's in the middle of the threads, and that's good enough for me. Now this is the bit where you have to be really careful though, because you don't want any Loctite seeping down the edges going into the thrust bearing. For obvious reasons, it'll lock up the bearings. So if I just gently put the screw in, just going to release it a little bit. Right, make sure that Loctite goes all the way in. Now that's not tight, right, obviously, but just check that your bearing's moving nice and smooth and it's not catching or anything, which that feels fine. Move that out of the road, we're not going to need that anymore. Now remember your little copper washer that I let slid off, make sure you get that back in, right, because that's going to be at the bottom on the inside of one of your arms, which will pick this one. Alright, like I said, this is the easiest one to do for the simple reason you can assemble everything this way. The next one you'll see is a lot more complicated, well, more awkward. And then all you'll do is slide in your thrust bearing through the arm, lining that washer up. Should go in quite easy. You shouldn't have to force it. If you have to force it, there's a problem. Look, that goes in like butter. I could turn that upside down and it'll drop out. That'll go in like butter. Alright, so that's in there pretty damn good now, and it feels snug. Now before we go any further, you want one of them little silver washers. Now slide that on, because that's on the inside. Whoops, that goes on the inside, and it'll just, it's a snug fit, it'll just slide on and that locks into there. And when this bit gets applied, which we'll do now, we'll push the head, this is your feathering shaft, and we're pushing it straight through the thrust bearing. And I'll tell you what can help actually. You don't always have to, but if you put a tiny bit, just a tiny bit, of grease on your feathering shaft here, and it will help. Keep plenty of paper towels handy. It will help slide it through. Now the second I push this, it's going to pop out. So get your screwdriver, or your hex driver in my case, just to hold the nut in place and push. Notice how the dampener washer, the rubber dampener's coming out, so just make sure you push that back in. Now there is your first head on and assembled. Alright, and that was easy. Now the next bit is more complicated, because you have to do it while the actual head is on. So we'll start off, do everything in reverse this time. So we'll start off, whoops, should keep hold of that. Dampeners come out again. Start off with one of them little silvery washers which we put on last time, but we're starting with that this time. Okay, and then, well, you can hold on to the head for a second actually. Just put that down. Right, now the easiest way to do this, because you're doing everything in reverse, right, is start with a screw, right, on your screwdriver. Now because everything's going in reverse, don't forget to reverse which way your thrust bearings are going in. So you have to picture the in one wants to be furthest that way. Alright, so if I put the in one on first, it'll be furthest out. So I want the out one on first, which is that one. So on that one, oh, I haven't put any grease on these. Right, jump shot while I put some grease on these thrust bearings and I'll be back. And we're back. Right, where was I? I've greased up this side of the thrust bearing, put the screw on the little hex, and like I said, this time onto the screw first. You want the out one because it's going to be on the outside. Making sure you get your bearing right facing the right way, so this time your ball bearings, right, the flat side again facing down towards the ground, shall we say, and then your inside piece goes straight onto the next screw, next part of the screw. Try and not get a load of grease on the screw. You haven't got a lot to play with there. If I zoom in a bit, you haven't got much screw left to play with. And we haven't even put the washer on yet, and don't forget we also need some Loctite on there, but it's just a case of take your time wrong way, and don't rush it. It's one of them horrible jobs that you just have to do and fiddle about with. Got a little washer on there. Alright, now we need a bit of Loctite, hence the toothpick. This is where the toothpick really comes in handy. Alright, you don't want loads on, but you can really see what you're doing here. Just checking. A little blob there. Sorry if I've gone quiet, but for obvious reasons I'm concentrating. Because I don't want any Loctite in that bloody bearing. Right, and now we assemble this side by following the nuts and bolts straight up the blade. You need a steady hand. Oops, that's falling off. Oh, that's fell off. These things happen. Try again. There, got it. And when it's in, don't let go. Alright, and then slide your other part of your head in and start to screw. You will need about 6 pairs of hands, but you will need another screwdriver, or they'll simply unscrew themselves because they go clockwise to counterclockwise with each other. So as you're holding one in, smaller screwdrivers come in handy here. That's tight. I can't put this down to adjust the camera, so I'm sorry. Now I've just loosely tightened them. They're tight, but they're not sort of like kill yourself tight. And I just want to check these are smooth. They're not, you know what I mean, not catching. So they feel nice and smooth. I'll zoom out now. Whoops, wrong way. Yeah, they feel nice. Oh, if you're wondering why I got a blue head and black arm holders, right, I already had the arm holders and I needed a new head and they didn't have a black one, so simple as that, but it don't matter. So that's in now, just working the grease a little bit on both sides. Oh, one thing you should check at this point before you really tighten it down, right, the two holders, the arm grips, right, you want to pull them away from the main head part and there shouldn't be any wobble. Like that's solid. That is rock solid. Right, there's no bounce, there's no wobble, there's no give. So that's perfect actually, I'm very happy with that. Right, so we'll just tighten this down now. Get it nice and tight. Like I said, you'll need 2 screwdrivers here and 3 sets of bloody hands. It's a pain in the backside. I'm trying to explain this easy for new pilots, and I know it's probably, don't be scared to tighten them up, but don't go mental. Right, last thing you want to do is strip a screw now, because you might as well just throw the entire thing away. Well, that's quite tight. Yeah, you strip a screw now, you might as well just throw the entire thing in the bin, because you will never ever get that out. It's happened to me before, right, and I've literally had to cut the head, get an angle grinder, cut the head off, right, straight through the feathering shaft, just to try and rescue the grips, right, and it was a complete nightmare. But yeah, that's in nice and tight now. That's pretty smooth, I'm quite happy with that. once the grease goes, it'll runs round a bit more, it'll be even smoother. And yeah, so just work them in, keep giving them a little twist, and after a while they'll feel nice and smooth. Just double check there's no play, but that's it. Yeah, so we're done. The head's on, it's all assembled, everything's greased and oiled and everything, so shouldn't have any problems. There you go then. If you're a new pilot and you've got any questions about this, please ask, leave a comment and out like that. I'll be happy to get back to you. But yeah, I just thought I'd do something for helicopter pilots, because I love my helis, and seeing as I'm working on them again at the moment through winter, hoping to get them out next spring, I thought I'd share that little bit, because I used to get asked quite a few times about thrust bearings and how to connect up the head, because it's, as you've just seen, it's more complicated and fiddly. That's a great word. It's more complicated and fiddly than it looks. Yeah, and then this part will just go up in there, bolted in, screwed in. This will slide in, connect into the main shaft and everything, right in the centre, into the centre of the heli. But yeah, so that's your head done. Okay then, pilots and ground crew and helicopter pilots and everything, hope this helps, and thanks for watching, and cheers.